Welcome back to KDC on the Move. I'm Barry Frazier, your host. This week we're going to be talking about self-resurrection. Self-resurrection is just simply understanding that you're going to go through different phases in life where you want to have to consider measures in your life. We talked about last time that time being your only true commodity, and sometimes you look at yourself academically, intellectually, sexually, emotionally, spiritually, and all these things that you take into account when you're actually trying to measure your growth and what you've accomplished in your lifespan, the time that you've had on earth. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about my favorite mythical creature. My favorite mythical creature is the phoenix. And the reason why the phoenix is my favorite creature is because this is the only creature that can go through its natural lifespan, set itself on fire, only to be reborn from its ashes. Okay, there comes a time on your journey where you're walking about and you're looking at the growth, your accomplishments, your failures, your successes, all these things, and then you reach what I call, quote unquote, a dead field. Okay? A dead field is simply a part of your life, a season in your life, a stage in your life where there is no growth. You're stagnant. Nothing is being produced in your life. Okay? My grandfather was a farmer. He had 600 acres of land back during a time where it was very hard to accomplish, him having 600 acres of land. And there was always seasons where he had a certain lot of land that wouldn't produce. So what did he have to do? He had to get on his tractor. He had to go cultivate the land. He had to add additives to the land. He had to add fertilizer to the soil to actually get it back conditioned to the point where it can actually produce a crop. Our lives are simply the same way. There are times on your journey where you're going to reach a dead field where there's nothing growing in your life. What are you going to do when there's no growth? What are you going to do when life is stagnant? What are you going to do when you cannot measure your time? What are you going to do when you are not able to motivate anybody else because you can't even motivate your own self? What are you going to do when you can't express yourself freely? What are you going to do when you cannot feel the sense of being in tune with yourself? You have to take the time and experience everything. I tell people to experience everything, the mountains as well as the valleys, because all of those are indications of where we're going. And you have to go through these natural stages in life. So we're talking about self-resurrection. How do I get myself from being a quote unquote dead field? Do just like my grandfather did. Know that there's work to be done right here. Don't overlook the lot of land. Don't pay attention to the land, because eventually if you overlook this lot of land then that's not producing and you want to get a fast harvest and you move on to the rest of the acres of land that are producing, and then you move over here and then you got another dead field and you forget about that when you ignore that. And so you want to focus on the rest of the acres that's producing. Now you have two dead fields, and then you go through the harvest process, and then you got another dead field and another dead field and another dead field. And then you come to the point of realizing that I didn't take the time to pay attention to what was going on with that first dead field. Now there is no growth in my life. I'm not producing anything because I didn't take the time to put in the work to deal with the first dead field, to see what was going on with that particular batch of soil that I needed to bring back to life to produce a crop in our life. Careers are the same way. Sometimes when you don't have the growth and progression in this area of your life vocationally, you may want to consider changing what you're doing, because it may not be tied to your purpose. Sometimes work is just work, but it's not your purpose. And you have to find where you're going in life. You have to determine if this is what you're destined to do, or if this is the person I'm destined to become. And you have to pay attention to that, and you have to recondition yourself. You have to put work on yourself. You have to pay attention to your thoughts and how you're feeling and how you're managing your time to see if it's going to be worthwhile in the end. You have to actually look at the people around you to decide if they're conducive for your growth, if they need to be cut off, if they need to be, you need to add different friends. You think about the trees, and I love trees because they're so symbolic of growth and they're so majestic to me. And sometimes you have to have an arborist to come in and cut off a dead branch. Does it mean that the whole tree is dead? No, it just means that branch is dead and it needs to be removed. And sometimes we have to remove certain people in our lives that's keeping our growth stagnant. Sometimes we have to condition that dead field to give the additives and the fertilizer and all the other things that's needed for that particular batch of earth to grow. Our lives are the same. Look within yourself. Look at your heart. See if you need to change something about your heart. Look at your head. See if you need to change something about how you think. Look at your places. See if you need to change the people that you're hanging around. But you look at yourself as the entirety. So ultimately, you don't become a dead field and nothing is producing in your life. Remember, kings create kings.